On December 26, 2004, the worst tsunami in recorded history caused devastation in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Pondicherry, parts of Kerala and the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar. The southern parts of Andaman and Nicobar, which were closest to the epicenter, were especially badly affected. With its 20 years of experience in disaster management, BJS teams galvanized into action to help the populace. A thorough needs assessment later, BJS decided to reconstruct fully damaged schools, primary health centers and primary health sub-centers in Andaman and Nicobar. After due formalities, the administration permitted BJS to reconstruct 20 permanent schools and 34 permanent health centers. Specially appointed highly qualified architects and structural engineers from Pune and Mumbai designed the structures as per Seismic Zone 5 and adhering to IS Code 1893. The plans were approved by the Andaman and Nicobar administration. BJS set up a full-fledged office in Port Blair to facilitate supervision. The execution of the project faced several logistical limitations like non-availability of material, labor and breakdown of infrastructure and transport systems. BJS involved all the stakeholders, including the local community, to ponder these issues and to interact with technical experts to find feasible solutions. BJS also engaged an expert agency from Delhi to train unskilled labor in construction techniques. After receiving local feedback, BJS prepared a comprehensive and practical action plan for reconstruction.
प्रफुल्ल पारक, राष्ट्रीय मंत्री, भारतीय जैन संगठन.
In spite of all the efforts taken to ensure a smooth implementation of the action plan, we faced many challenges. Most significant was the difficulty in transportation of material. Upon transporting the material, procurement of labor and construction on uneven forest terrain made matters even more difficult. To illustrate the hardships faced by BJS, let us take for example the transportation of material from the mainland to the final site of Evolve Kapanga. Prefabricated material was purchased in Hyderabad and transported to Visakhapatnam port. From where it was shipped to Chennai and unloaded at Chennai arrival port. Cement, steel and other construction material purchased from Chennai itself was also transported to Chennai arrival port. All this material waited at the Chennai yard for more than 2 weeks for the scheduled ship to Port Blair. The material was finally transported to the Chennai departure port, loaded onto a big ship and transported to Port Blair. The journey from Chennai to Port Blair took 4 days. The material was unloaded at Port Blair for the completion of formal procedures. It was then loaded onto a truck for transportation to the BJS Port Blair yard. Various material for the construction of the 34 health centers and 20 schools spread over different islands of Andaman and Nicobar were stored at the BJS Port Blair yard. It had to be segregated island-wise, since each island had a specific number of structures and each structure had its own technical specifications. We are illustrating the transportation of material from the mainland to Kapanga. Kapanga is located on Kachal, one of the many small islands in the Nankawi group. The Nankawi group of islands is made up of 3 main clusters of islands, namely Kamota, Kachal and Teresa. We are reconstructing 15 sub-centers in the Nankawi group of islands. It is important to note that the material for all 15 sub-centers had to be shipped only to Kamorta. Kamorta was the only island among the entire Nankawi group to have a functioning jetty. At Kamorta, the prefabricated material had to be further segregated for each sub-center out of the total 15. Kapanga was one of the 3 sub-centers on Kachal Island. The material now had to be transported to Kachal. Since the jetties were destroyed in the tsunami, only small boats could be used to transport the material further. Small boats were scarce, and consequently the ones available were now heavily booked to transport high-priority essential goods. They had a very infrequent schedule, due to which construction material was accorded low priority and had to wait for a few months at Kamorta. After reaching Kachal, the boat had to be anchored 100 meters away from the shore, since the jetty at Kachal Island was also destroyed during the tsunami. Now the material was loaded onto very small boats called dongis, which were then pushed all the way to the shore. With the limited capacity of the dongis, this process had to be repeated a minimum 18 times for each sub-center. Once the material was unloaded on Kachal Island, it was carried by headload uphill, since hill slopes and hilltops are the only inhabited areas here. Due to the scarcity of labor, the process took many months to be completed. Once the material was all transported to the hilltop, it was loaded and taken to its final destination of Kapanga. This illustrated the transportation cycle to only one of the many construction sites, and it gives a clear idea of the hardships faced by BJS. A similar exercise was repeated for each and every sub-center. Repeated loading and unloading of material, transportation, seismic aftershocks and adverse climatic and sea conditions often damaged 40 to 60% of the material, and the entire process had to be repeated. Transportation was one aspect, but the hurdles faced of procurement of labor and actual reconstruction on sites remained to be overcome. However, BJS was determined and intended to complete the task within a record period of 1 year. Despite all hurdles, BJS implemented the entire action plan well within time. All the permanent RCC structures and prefabricated structures with RCC plinths are complete with doors, windows, electrical fittings, water and drainage system. All the school structures were handed over to the administration totally free of cost. children have now happily resumed their academic careers. Apart from reconstructing the health centers, BJS also provided critical medical supplies and ambulances. On the 8th of October 2005, the first phase of the health centers was handed over to the Director Health, Andaman and Nicobar, at the hands of Shri Surjit Singh Barnala, Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, in the presence of Miss Anne Maxwell of the Office of the Special Envoy for Tsunami Recovery, United Nations, and Chief of Staff, Direct Relief International. This phenomenal task would not have been possible without the help of Direct Relief International, who provided funding for the health centers and the medical supplies. We are also grateful to leading newspapers, international NGOs, Jain philanthropists and social organizations who supported our initiative. BJS is glad to have lived up to their expectations and is motivated to take up bigger challenges in the future.